Welcome to Unleash the Awesome with Dave Gambrill. All of us have unique skills, talents, and abilities that aren't being used to their full potential. Our mission is to share the people, tools, apps, and other resources that will help you unleash your awesome on the world.
Yo, what's up? It's Dave. Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Awesome. Today, let's talk about the struggle between maker and manager. If you are a solopreneur, you're building your side hustle, maybe you're still working 9-to-5 gig or something, and you're building your side hustle, you're bootstrapping, you're doing the hustle and grind, all of that stuff. You spend a lot of time in the maker mindset, right? You're just creating, you're trying to get stuff out there, you're doing a lot of doing, a lot of action, a lot of activity. It's all you, right? You're doing it, and you're the only one doing it, right? Solopreneur, the only one. It's just you, me, myself, and I, right? You're trying to make stuff happen. So you're the maker. You're making a lot of stuff, and you're trying to make a lot of stuff happen. And it's not unusual as you're building your side hustle, you're growing that business, that you will do a heck of a lot of that for a very long time. And you need to, right? Because as you're getting started, maybe you don't have the budget, or maybe you don't have the time to do some other things. And so you have to be, really smart about what it is you're doing. And then you're like, okay, I only have an hour in my day to dedicate to my side hustle or my business I'm launching. And so I got to do these things. And then you got to do them within the time allotted. And so a lot of people kind of get stuck in that phase. And part of the reason they have trouble scaling is because they don't ever start to spend time in manager mode. Okay, it's just maker, and they never spend any time doing manager mode. What is manager? Well, manager mode is, those are the things where you kind of take a step back and say, what's going on here? What are some things, what's happening? Like, how's my income? How's the revenue? What are the taxes? Like, all these things that need to happen. Plus, what tools am I using? What tools should I be using? What are some other things I need to look at? What is my publishing schedule for my podcast? Am I doing Facebook Lives on a consistent basis, right? It's more time managing the day-to-day aspects of what's happening, the things that need to happen, the things that need to get done, right? And I think, for me anyway, but I think people that are wired like me, if you're a super creative person and you just want to go get stuff done, we often worry more about the wow than the how, right? So it's like the wow piece, like, wow, this would be really great. Wow, this project's really neat. Wow, let's go do this. Wow, right? And you have to learn how to transition a little bit into the manager piece of, well, how? I think some people who have trouble getting started are maybe wearing the manager hat a little bit too much. And they're saying, well, how are we going to do that? And so they never start anything. So some people, depending on how you're wired, what kind of personality you have, maybe that's where you start. And then you're never doing anything, right? So, but there are these two modes of like, are you doing stuff? And then the other one is like, are you paying attention to how stuff's getting done? I use the analogy a lot of airplanes. Are you flying the airplane? Or are you the air traffic controller, making sure a bunch of airplanes fly safely and land and take off at the airport, right? Flying the airplane is the maker. Flying the airplane is the person just doing it, okay? The air traffic controller would be the manager. So you have to start thinking about, depending on where you get stuck there, but I think a lot of people who have an idea and they want to launch something, they just start doing things. They don't ever think about the manager piece. So my recommendation to you would be start allocating time, even though it sounds counterintuitive, but I would recommend that you block time in your week to just spend time thinking about the management side of the business, like some of the pieces, right? Because then here's what can happen, all right? When you spend your time in management mode, you start looking at, one of the first things I would look at is, what are the things I should eliminate, automate, or delegate, okay? Eliminate, automate, or delegate. What are some things you're doing right now that, like, just in the hustle and grind, you didn't really pay attention to the fact that it's not doing anything. It's not helping anybody. It's not, or maybe when you first got started, it was necessary, but it's not necessary anymore. So the first piece is, am I doing something that I don't need to be doing anymore? Just period. Nobody needs to be doing it. How can we eliminate it? I call that addition by subtraction. Okay, how can we just get rid of things? You're going to find that there's probably things you're doing that you don't need to do anymore, either because of economy of scale, or it's not working, or that's not where your audience is, or whatever, okay? So eliminate. The second one is automate. you can start looking at the things you're doing routinely to see if you could automate it. That's where some of these tools and things come in, like software. And, I use Trello and Kajabi and Clickfunnels and some of these other things to help me grow my business. A lot of them help me automate things, or at least put a system in place. Okay, so maybe you can't quite automate it yet. It's not just being done automatically by some software, but you can sit down and look at the process and see, like, okay, like for me, when I started this podcast, to be totally honest with you, when I started this podcast, I said to myself, listen, if I make this too complicated, I will never do it. So let's just go. And so I didn't try to make it a video podcast to start, even though maybe eventually I will do that. And I have the ability to do that, but it was just one level of complexity that I didn't need. So I said, let's just get started. Let's hit record and start talking. And then I did a couple episodes and I realized, like, wait, there's things I do after the fact for post-production, even though I do it myself, that I'm doing all the time, but I'm not doing consistently. Like, what's going on? So I made a Trello board. You can use other tools like Asana or Monday or ClickUp or whatever. I like Trello. I made 3 columns, a to-do column, a doing column, and a done column. This is just modeled after basic Kanban board methodology. 3 columns, to do, doing, done. Then I usually make like a notes and resources column. And in this case, for my podcast, I also made a podcast ideas column to the far left, right? What are some ideas for podcasts, episodes? And then I made, like, on the right, one for the completed episodes. So I could drag those over there. Then what I do is I created it's called a card in Trello for all the things I do every time I record an episode. I record the episode, I pop it into GarageBand, I add the intro and the outro that are there, right? It just takes a second to do that. And then I publish it to Simplecast, which is what I use for my podcasting hosting or platform. And then I share it on a couple different places, whatever. And I realized through doing that, like, okay, now I have this checklist of things on there. If I never spent time in manager mode, I never would have thought about that. And each episode I was doing, I just would have done it without much thinking, right? And yeah, probably most of the time, a lot of the stuff would have gotten done, but not all of it would have got done all the time. So I looked at it and I said, oh, okay, here are the steps of the things that I do when I do my podcast. And what I realized was, wait, there's some things I can combine. There are actually some things I can eliminate in that because I can combine them. And then when I'm looking to syndicate it or get it out to other platforms or whatever, I found a tool that does help me automate. I'll put the link in the show notes for it. It's called Repurpose. But I use Repurpose, and that automatically at the end of this thing sends my podcast out to YouTube. It makes what's called an audiogram and sends it right out to YouTube. So while I was in the process of figuring out if I could automate, I actually found a tool that does help me automate. None of that would have happened if I never got into manager mode, if I just stayed in maker mode, okay? So get over into manager mode, think about eliminate, automate, and then maybe there's a situation where you can delegate. So maybe you can't automate, but as I was building this podcast, again, as an example, I didn't want to do the cover art. I mean, I could have done it and I could have messed around in Canva or whatever, but that's not my sweet spot. And I'm colorblind. So I might have made something that looked really great to me, and the rest of you have been like, dude, what, did a colorblind person make that? And the answer would be yes. But I didn't want to do that. So I had an idea of what I wanted. I had an image, my skydiving image that I thought would be cool. And so I went on Fiverr. Okay, again, the link will be in the show notes wherever you're watching this. Went on Fiverr. I found the graphic artist person. I said, look, I need some podcast artwork. I'd like you to base it off this image. The podcast is going to be called this. Have a good time. I think I spent $20 all in on, back and forth and the kind of images that I want, but $20 to get podcast art. So I outsourced it. Okay. I delegated it, right? The other piece was the intro and the outro for this podcast. I was like, well, I know what I want to say in the intro and the outro. And I went and I found some music that I like on a thing called Pond 5. And then I was like, well, okay, I own this music now, or at least I own the rights to it. Let's get somebody to do the voiceover and the production to create an intro and an outro for me. Again, I probably spent $40 all in, and I got this really cool intro and outro for this podcast. So I outsourced that. I delegated it to somebody else. I figured that wasn't a good use of my time in maker mode. Okay. So you see where this is going? So there's maker mode and manager mode. I had to spend some time in manager mode to say, okay, what are some things, like, let's get smarter about what I'm doing over here. And then that's where some of these tools, that's where some of the elimination, that's where some of the automation, that's where some of the outsourcing or the delegation, that's where those things come in. So I know it sounds counterintuitive, right? But this is one of those things where you have to slow down to speed up. Most entrepreneurs I know are running like full speed ahead, burning the candles at both ends, just running like crazy all the time, just trying to get stuff done. But unless you have somebody that you hired on your team to be essentially like the operations person, right? If you're not ready for that yet, then you have to be the operations person. So you have to go into manager mode and think about these things. Then once you have some structure around it, if you want to start hiring people, it actually makes it easier to hire people because you spent some time in manager mode and you went, oh, here are some things that I routinely wish I could delegate or outsource. It would be really cool if I had somebody in-house that could do this, or it'd be really cool if I had a virtual assistant because I think there's probably 10 hours of work a week in this. And then better when you want to go hire a virtual assistant like you could do from the Philippines. I bet you didn't know that. I'll share a link for that too in the show notes for you, right? But you could do something like that. And the cool thing about that, especially if you live in the United States, is when you have virtual assistants in other parts of the world, you can share whatever you need to get done at the end of your work day. Let's say it's Tuesday afternoon here in the United States, Eastern time, and I say, hey, to my virtual assistant in the Philippines, I'd love to have this stuff done over the next couple of days, or, if you get this done by tomorrow, that would be great. Tuesday, I shut down my laptop. Tuesday afternoon, right? They're just waking up in the Philippines on the other side of the world. They get my stuff. They pretty much have the whole day to go through it. They finish some of it. I'm going to sleep. I wake up in the morning. They're closing out their work day. I see some stuff in my inbox. They got some stuff done, which is pretty cool. That's one of the reasons why I like to have at least one VA if I'm doing VAs, virtual assistants from another part of the world, India, the Philippines, whatever. So, okay, to recap. Maker, manager, right? Probably spending a lot of time in maker mode. Or if you haven't really got started, you're spending way too much time in manager mode and you just need to go get some stuff done, if you know what I'm saying. But generally, you're spending a lot of time in maker mode. Got to spend some time then. And you can't, if you didn't never start anything, you never do anything, you can't really analyze it from the manager mode. Then you go to manager mode to block out. I'm telling you, block out at least an hour a week more as you're growing to look at your business, see what's going on. When you're in manager mode, look at what can you eliminate? What can you automate? What can you delegate or outsource? And then once you start getting the feel for that, you start creating boards in Trello or ClickUp or Asana or any of those things that you're using, Airtable. Then if you want to hire somebody or you want to delegate stuff on a more consistent basis, outsource stuff, then you could actually bring somebody else in to help you, okay? So hopefully that helps, right? I know it's tough. If you're still listening and you're still like, I don't think I should do that, it's precisely why you probably should do it. You probably need to do it more than anyone else. I'm really just talking more to myself right now than anybody. But if you're like me, if you're just somebody who built your thing and you're just running hard and trying to get done and getting the stuff out there, you gotta slow down to speed up. Okay, you gotta slow down to speed up. Spend a little time in manager mode, and that will help you unleash your awesome on the world and unleash the awesome of your business, right? So until next time, spend a little time in manager mode and go unleash your awesome on the world. See you later.
Thanks for listening to Unleash the Awesome. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please share us on your favorite social media platforms using #UnleashAwesome.